Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. We are continuing with our study today of Surah al-Baqarah, verse 67 on. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. So now we come to the verse after which the surah is known, mentioning the story of the cow with Musa and his people. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وإذ قال موسى لقومه إن الله يأمركم أن تذبحوا بقرة قالوا أتتخذنا هزوا قال أعوذ بالله أن أكون من الجاهلين قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا فارض ولا بكر عوان بين ذلك فيفعل ما تؤمرون قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما لونها قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة صفراء فاقع لونها تسر الناظرين قالوا ادع لنا ربك يبين لنا ما هي إن البقرة تشابه علينا وإنا إن شاء الله لمهتدون قال إنه يقول إنها بقرة لا ذلول تثير الأرض ولا تسقي الحرث مسلمة لا شية فيها قالوا الآن جئت بالحق فذبحوها وما كانوا يفعلون. Walaikum salam, brother Asad. Nice to see you. And when Musa said to his people, indeed God commands you that you slaughter a cow, they said, do you take us in mockery? He said, I seek refuge in God that I be of the ignorant. They said, call for us your Lord, that he clarify for us what it is. He said, indeed, he says, indeed it is a cow, not aged and not kind of young, moderate or middle-aged, between that, so do what you are commanded. They said, call for us your Lord, that he clarify for us what is its color. He said, indeed, he says, indeed it is a cow, yellow, vivid its color, which gladdens the observers. They said, call for us your Lord, that he clarify for us what it is. Indeed, the cows resemble or are similar to us, and indeed, we, if God willed, surely will be guided. He said, indeed, he says, indeed it is a cow, not tamed to plow the earth and not to kind of quench the sowing, quench the crops basically, or basically water the crops. Sound or peaceful with no marking upon it. They said, now you have come with the truth. So they slaughtered it and almost did not do it. So as usual, we'll take a second or two to reflect. Okay, so I think it's important to contextualize this story, of course, within the broader theme and message of the surah, which has always been concerning guidance, as we've been discussing. Specifically, God has made the distinction through many examples and focusing on the children of Israel that possessing guidance is not the same thing as following it. And has basically equated or made parallel so far guidance to submitting to God and to being wary of God. These three terms, taqwa, huda, Islam, if you will. So submission to God is worshiping God alone. So just to recall all these important definitions. Now, remember, like we had, for instance, the example of the mosquito, or like where God said, like he's not shy to strike an example such as of a mosquito or what is above it. So the mosquito was something where God described two possible responses. One where the person like places the mosquito beneath himself and says like, what did God wish by this example? So he has this sort of judgmental relationship to God's words, shall we say, or the guidance or the sign. So he places the sign, to him the sign is like offensively, like almost offensively insignificant. So it's like the point I'm mainly making here is the person puts his standard above the guidance, rather than putting the guidance above him and then modifying his standards accordingly, letting the guidance guide him and submitting beneath that. And we see pretty much the same pattern with the cow here in this example. Rather than accept and submit and do what they're commanded, even Musa says, so do what you are commanded when they keep questioning him. Rather than just do what they're commanded and submit themselves and follow the guidance and follow the command, they have to keep rationalizing over the command and to say, well, which color is it? Which one is it? It's not sufficient for them. They're defining what they need in order to obey. So it's pretty much a classic case and example of placing the guidance beneath themselves. The guidance has to conform to their expectations. And in this case, like you could say, their expectations involve having sufficient details to carry out the command. So just to summarize the basic progression, Musa tells him that God commands him to slaughter a cow. They literally say, yeah, I was going to say that one too, Brother Saad, like the classic question of like, how do you pray? How do you do X, Y, and Z? But God's command is sufficient already. And in this passage, their asking of questions was not a sign of genuine intent to obey, even where to them it seemed rational to ask all these questions. Like, yeah, we should be able to determine which cow it is, even though that was never a condition that God gave. God never said it had to be a particular cow. So it was perfectly valid for them to just slaughter any cow. By asking these questions, you can appreciate they were making it harder for themselves. Each time I find that God's answer was also obvious and could have been logically derived. So for instance, the first question they ask, actually the first thing they do is they say, are you taking us as a joke, basically? Are you taking us in mockery? So the first thing they do is to place it way beneath themselves and to say is this a joke, basically, or are we a joke to you? And then that's why Musa responds very strongly, saying, I seek refuge in God that I be of the ignorant. So just their general attitude and their initial reaction kind of reveals their internals. Their initial reaction is one of arrogance and definitely not subjecting themselves under God's command to the point of feeling, how to put it, because it's a clear parallel to the mosquito case, where the person, when he hears the mosquito example, he says, what did God intend by this example? And they're basically asking the same question, like, what does God want us to slaughter a cow for? Like, is this a joke? Anyway, they follow a progression anyway. So they call for us, your Lord, to clarify for us what it is. So they want to know which cow to slaughter, basically. And the answer is a cow that is not young nor old. So this should have been also, first I'm making the case here that it should have been obvious. They could have just used their own logic. They did not even need to ask these questions. Because number one, if you slaughter a cow that's too young, it's not going to provide a lot of meat. It's going to be kind of a smaller sacrifice, which is not appropriate for God. This is a sacrifice for God. If you slaughter a cow that's too old, it's past its condition, it's a lower quality and worse slaughter. So by default, you would know to slaughter a cow that's like at its peak, because this is the best sacrifice you can give. And God deserves the best, obviously. Secondly, they ask, what color is the cow? And the answer being a yellow color, which pleases the observers. Peace, Brother Mahdi, welcome. So, this one is also kind of actually logically derivable and obvious, because when you pick to slaughter something, okay, you pick one that is moderately aged, so it's at its peak, it's a good yield of meat, and everything is nice. But now, when you're picking from those, you have different colors. The one that you should pick is the one whose color and appearance is nicest. If it's a sacrifice for God, you want to sacrifice the best thing. So God gives the case of a yellow one that it gladdens the observers. So basically, to pick the color that is nicest. Then they said, they asked the next question, which again is just tell us which one it is, basically. At this point, they're saying, let him clarify for us. Indeed, the cows are similar for us. So they're basically asking, just answer it specifically. And they say, indeed, we, if God willed, will be guided. And I feel like this one, because after they say this quote, God actually responds to them conclusively and determines the exact cow, which was their initial desire. So they said some truth here, I think, and they kind of at least started to subject themselves under the guidance and under God. And as soon as they did so, God guided them, which I find amazing. But then he clarifies it through saying that it's a cow that is not like it's not the cow's job to plow the earth, nor to irrigate. So it's a cow that is not worked, so to speak, and it has no mark upon it. So this is, again, I would argue that this was also logically obvious. You would not pick a cow that is worked because it is not, there's a difference between like work animals and general livestock, which are for meat. The worked ones are going to be of a lower quality, I assume, plus they're going to be, as far as meat's concerned, plus they're going to be somewhat defective by comparison due to their hard work. Secondly, with no blemish is a cow with no defect, basically. You would not pick something that is defective as a sacrifice for God. So overall, to summarize, in terms of this point, like, they did not even need to ask this question to select the proper cow. The proper cow would have been a cow that is, when it's a sacrifice for God, that's the context, so it would be a cow that is healthy, beautiful, the nicest one basically in all categories that you can find. I would really argue that if you combine all these details, it just results in the nicest cow, the best one. So they could have known that it's a sacrifice for God, so let us choose the best cow. They did not have to ask this question. Yes, I think to one of the points in the chat from Brother Saad, I think these things being not mentioned originally is a mercy also. Yes, I would agree, because if, let's just say, if they had been commanded to sacrifice the cow, and they did it, but they didn't quite choose the best one, I still assume God would have accepted it because they did what they were commanded. But now that they went through all the questions, they really have to sacrifice the best one because it was clarified. And now that's harder because it's a lovely cow that's, etc. used for, not used for anything like a perfect cow. So it's a combination, Sister Mian. Sorry, let me put the it's both that the details were unimportant in the sense that any cow would have done, technically, since God did not specify, but there's a proper, if you want to choose the proper, like, best, rationally you would choose the best to sacrifice for God. So there's like a more complete fulfillment, which is possible. You could just fulfill it and done. Or you could fulfill it in a better way or the best way. And as they keep asking, they make the best fulfillment obligatory upon themselves. Salam, Brother Omar. Welcome.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Musa. Thank you.
Any point to add, brother?
Yes, plenty. I'd like to add an important point, but it's just a brief introduction. الآن جئت بالحق, now you come in truth, implies that they knew what cow they needed to sacrifice from the beginning. So this is the first main example, the first main meme God gives, and it is the answer against all hadith followers. This is a meme, and إن الله لا يستحي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها. So this is the prime example God gives in this surah, and it shows when Allah said اذبحوا بقرة, it was enough from the beginning. They knew they had to sacrifice, of course, the most beautiful cow, the one that they favored the most. It was clear. If they had the slightest regret about what they did, the slightest gratitude about God saving them from Egypt, the slightest reverence from seeing the sea split, from asking to see God and being struck, and just as repentance for them having worshipped the cow, they must have sacrificed the best cow they had. But God was also revealing that this very cow, they were still looking forward to worship the calf. They were anticipating this cow to give them the calf that is so dear to them. So God was he knew that for them to be cleansed, for them to show repentance, for them to test them if they had learned the lesson, they would have immediately slaughtered her, but they didn't. And they argued and they asked. So it is not real guidance. God is showing us that they still have the adoration of the calf in their heart.
Now, there's another interesting kind of tangential point, which is that this event, though it's not like exactly recounted this way in the Jewish material nowadays, but it still has seemingly like leaked into the modern beliefs in the Jewish community, because they have this idea that famously that they have to sacrifice a perfect red cow with no blemishes, and ironically they continue to not sacrifice that red cow because it has to be perfect. For some reason it has to be perfectly red with no single non-red hair, and they've made the condition so stringent and tied it to the messianic sort of narratives that there is no such cow. Like, even though, you guys get what I mean, like there's the red cow which they continue to be unable to sacrifice. Let me just have Google summarize.
Bro, how familiar are you with the narration in the Bible, in the Old Testament? It's in Numbers 19, the book of Numbers, chapter 19. And no, it is the absolute opposite from every lesson you learn from this surah. It is the exact opposite. First of all, it starts with God stating the purpose of the slaughter. In the Quran, it is not, because in the Quran you have to obey and then maybe you will see the significance. Abraham saw that he was sacrificing his own son. He went ahead, he did not ask a single question. And this was also the same order in the for slaughtering the cow. They inverted everything, every single thing. They made it seem as if God, by his grace, sent us every single detail he wants about the specifications on the cow and how they need to be processed. And the process is so complicated. So it's crazy.
Yeah, subhanAllah, very interesting actually. Wa alaikum salam.
I don't know about cows, but red cats, ginger cats, they have black hair by default, like stray black hairs. Those grow out of their freckles, and they do not make them non-ginger. Um, they are not caused by them having genes of the black coat color or anything. They are still considered to be ginger, even though they have stray black hairs. It's just an effect called it's like mosaic effect, and it's just like the same hair that grows out of their freckles, and it's natural for ginger cats to have freckles, so it would be natural for cows to do so as well. So virtually is might be just impossible to have a red cow without stray black hairs.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So to summarize, in the scripture, there's the narrative where, at least the parallel part, is that God tells Moses and Aaron, it's not exactly parallel, as Brother Almar pointed out, but God tells Moses and Aaron to bring a completely red, unblemished heifer that's never worn a yoke. It's slaughtered outside the camp. So they at least align with the idea that they were commanded to slaughter a particular cow eventually. The color is wrong, but the general, like, unblemished and never worn a yoke, and the fact that it was slaughtered. Then the Jewish eschatology holds that the appearance and sacrifice of a 10th red heifer, 9 having been allegedly sacrificed in Moses' time, will enable ritual purification and herald the rebuilding of the temple. Yeah, this was the point we're making. Jewish groups actively search for a red heifer today. While completely red cattle are born naturally around the world, they rarely meet the hyper-specific exacting requirements laid out by Jewish rabbinical law, because they have stated that the heifer must be entirely red. Finding just 2 hairs of any other color, like black or white, next to each other completely disqualifies the animal. It must also be in its 3rd year of life. Never worn a yoke, obviously, perform physical labor. Even leaning on the cow can disqualify it. And then this aligned to what Brother Saad said. He said they spend millions every year on this, and it's a big industry in Texas. Organizations like the Temple Institute in Jerusalem have actively partnered with cattle ranchers globally, such as in Texas, to identify, breed, and transport promising candidates to Israel under strict supervision.
Brother, if you may allow me, I'd like to double down on the point about this meme, the cow being the number 1 destroyer of hadith. But since this argument is not brought up, and since Brother Muhammad has been in battles with these guys, I'd like to stress it. Hopefully he will listen so that he may use it. You see how much these Jews nowadays, they resemble in their ideas about religion and what God sent to us, how much this narrative resembles the hadith followers. They say, Alhamdulillah, God has gave us, in addition to the Quran, so much details, books. Now we can say exactly how to go to the bathroom, how to pray, exactly everything, thanks to these hadith books. And this is how the Jews' stance is, that God, when he told us to sacrifice a cow, he brought so many details about every step on the way about how. But in fact, he only said 2 words, idbahu baqara. That's it. And that was enough. And you are meant to take this enough as instruction and follow it. And when you follow it, it is up to you to do the best to do so, and God will judge you on this. No, you don't have to follow every step. Ya أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقولوا راعنا. It is the first commandment for believers. He's not gonna shepherd you for every step. No, he created you to be like the viceroy on earth. It's not every step. You're not a robot. You know what idbahu baqara is. You do that. Aqimu salah. You know what that means. It doesn't have to tell you like every step what you say, how you do it. And not only al-Baqarah is against hadith followers, but also fellow Quran aloners who are the non-ritualistic. They say salat is not salat, and they say Baqarah is not Baqarah, and Himar is not Himar. This Baqarah alone, the word Baqarah, since Sister Miao mentioned genetics, every single cow on earth is traced to a single herd. So every cow in the world is a cow. It can't be another species. It cannot refer to any other animal. A cow, everybody can say it's a cow. So there is no other interpretation. Kill a cow means idbahu baqara. That's it. There is no esoteric thing behind. It is clear. And we should just submit.
MashaAllah. I want to ask,
Are we really dealing with anything new here? Weren't Jews or Pharisees denounced in the New Testament as well? So that basically is the rebuke of being, hyper ritualistic, hyper specific in rituals and so on. So the lesson to be taken from here is quite simple and is nothing new really.
I couldn't quite get the first part. Could you try again?
Okay, so weren't Pharisees denounced in the New Testament as well for being hyper ritualistic, hyper specific? So we really have the continuation of the same pattern in the Quran.
Mm-hmm. My point that I was going to make in addition was like this hardness of heart that they showed in this case, which eventually they said, if God willed, we will be guided. And then God guided them, and then they slaughtered the cow, even though they almost refused. At that point, they had this hardness of heart, not to the level that they disobeyed, but they barely obeyed at the end of the day, so to speak. Nowadays, they have the same pattern, potentially, like as an average, and within the Hasidic community, where they don't even do it. They're unable to slaughter a cow that is completely red and has no blemish upon it, due to it's like a, how do I put it? It's like a caricatured version of this Quranic example. They've taken it even worse than that. They don't even obey. They do not even. They just make a joke out of it. Like, let's look for a red cow. Here's a red cow, perfect red cow. No, it's not. Here's an example or a visual. They actually will go with a magnifying glass and analyze the hairs. Any other thoughts?
Just the answer of the AI, it brought up 3 points, and I would like just to add again. A fourth point, when I mentioned God was revealing that they still have adoration of the calf. It was not for nothing that they left this special cow. They did not let her work, and they were taking care of her. They were planning something, and God revealed it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because the cow that's described as yellow here, which presumably their calf was also golden.
Yes, exactly.
I think the whole letter Aleph in the initials stands for the cow.
Actually, no, this is also an inversion. If you go to Aleph in Wikipedia, you will see that in all languages, it is represented by the head of an ox, but except in Arabic, it's Aleph. It's just a straight line indicating God upwards and Sirat al-Mustaqim. Every other alphabet is the head of ox, including the A. The capital A is an inverted head of an ox, A. But there are, of course, similarities between Aleph, God, and Aleph, the bull. Aleph means to tame, to be acquainted with, and a bull, its primary attribute, like if you go to the definition of a cow, the number one is a domesticated. It's the first attribute. Cattle is domesticated. A bull has no value if it was not tamed. Like you can approach it, it will not be scared of you. It will approach you and it will not be scared of you. But you know how powerful this entity is, but you can still approach it. So this is Aleph, the original Allah, the Aleph, God. Although he is absent, he is mighty. You can approach him, you can recognize him. This is the first. The inherent in the Aleph is this acquaintance and taming.
So I want to keep it on these verses for today. So are there any other thoughts related? Okay, if not, I think we'll end a bit early since I have to get ready anyway. So, and next time we'll convene in 2 days, inshallah. So peace, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you so much.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Till next time. Shukran salam.